Hello, letsrun.com, supporters club members, or anyone who's staying up on a Saturday night to listen to us talk some track and field. 8 days down at the 2023 World Athletics Championships. One to go. Another fun night at the National Athletics Center in Budapest. The United States of America, for the first time since 2007, has swept the 4x1s at a global championship. Noah Lyles gets gold number 3. Sha'Carri Richardson, gold number 2. Double gold for America. We had 2 mid-distance distance finals tonight. In the second, Faith Kipyegon completes the double. She adds the 5,000 title to the 1,500 title she won earlier this week. Another sub 57 second last lap. Just totally crazy. This one was fun. Kipyegon battling it out with Sifan Hassan and Beatrice Chebet for the medals over the final 100 meters. The other final, men's 800 meters, Marco Arop of Canada goes from last at the bell to first at the finish line to win Canada's first individual gold medal on the track at World Championships since 1995. This was an amazing night if you're Canadian. Maybe the greatest night of Canadian track and field ever. Not only did Marco Arop win the 800, they went 1-2 in the decathlon with Pierce LePage and Damian Warner. And then they got a silver in the shot put as well. So in this meet alone, Canada has 3 gold medals. They had 7 in the entire history of the World Championships to this point. So pretty good night for our friends to the north. Mondo Duplantis, of course, he won the pole vault as expected. You guys could see that one coming. Weldon.
Chase
Ely successfully defends her title in the shot put. I didn't see that coming in based on her 2023 form. I don't know if you would call it an upset when the defending champion wins, but she got it done. So plenty to discuss tonight. We'll have some takes on the relay, some takes on the 5K and 800. You ready to get into this, Weldon?
I'm ready. Going on fumes here. First, a shout out to our sponsor, McDonald's. And what's this Czech beer? Actually, no, Evil Twin Brewery is still our sponsor. Until we get a sponsor, we will sponsor. We love Evil Twin Brewery. And McDonald's has been fueling us at night here. But, John, nationally, I think they'll be talking about the 4x1s. The USA getting it done. On a night, though, that the U.S. gets it done, of course, somehow in the 4x4, we get DQ'd for an exchange. But this is LetsRun.com. We got to start, I think, with the distance races tonight. Let's go there. And we'll go in order that they happened. Marco Arop, Canadian, via Mississippi State. Mississippi State's, I think people will notice now. People call Texas A&M 800U, but if there's a number 2 in the U.S. via Canada, I think for sure it's Mississippi State.
Well, I mean, there's a few other arguments. Texas had a couple. Texas had the NCAA Indoor Champ. They got Creighton Carosa. I mean, the Ole Miss had won the 4x800, but yeah.
John, the last decade, international runners.
Okay, if that's the standard, then yeah, probably Mississippi State. I mean, I'm just going like Penn State's had some good runs, but yeah, Mississippi State had Brandon McBride, 2014 NCAA champion. Marco Arop never won NCAAs, but did finish second twice. Now he's the world champion. And they've got Novatsky Anderson. Quite a crew there under Chris Woods. And Weldon, let's just look. Going into this final, we knew he looked good through the round. So, like, this guy could win the gold medal. We expected if he was going to do it, he would do it from the front. That was the opposite of what actually happened. But the end of this race, there was absolutely no doubt Marco Arop was a lot better than everyone else. I thought Wanyonyi, who had been undefeated until Monaco, might be the best guy in the world this year. If he wasn't, I didn't think there was going to be a huge gap. The gap was only 0.3 of a second, but it felt like more. This was a dominant performance by Marco Arop to win the world title.
It's crazy how you can dominate 800 and win by 0.3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the level of error at this level, but it wasn't in doubt the last 100 meters. So he's known for front running. He goes out. What was the 400 split, John?
So the leader at 400 was 52.68. That was Wanyonyi. But Arop was last in the field. He was 53 53.38, and he comes back with a 50.6, something like that, lost 400. So pretty big negative split here. To do that for your last 400, especially because he ran the first turn of the last lap in lane 2, that's like another 3 or 4 meters. That's really fast. That's very hard to do, even off a slightly slower first lap.
Because he was one of my favorites for this one, and I was watching him at 400. And when it was so slow, my concern was, like, could he be too far back? Like, is he spotting the field too much? Sort of like a Sifan Hassan situation, maybe in the 10K. It's like, okay, you think you're better than everyone else, but if you spot these guys 0.7 of a second, you may not be able to make it up. It was no question. He moved up on the turn, took the lead on the backstretch, and then the only question mark once he hit the home stretch was, did he go too soon? And the question was a prophetic no. Cruise to the victory. Wanyoni did a good job actually coming back, maybe just a few feet on him at the end, but he could have gone another 20 meters for sure, won this one, maybe 30 even. It wasn't in doubt. Wanyoni gets second, and then it's a fierce battle for third, and Ben Pattison, the 21-year-old Brit who didn't get in the meet, didn't qualify for the meet until he ran 1:44.0 the final day of qualifying, I think, or the final meet. Essentially could have qualified at the London Diamond League 800, where he got, I think, second in that one. That got him into the meet because UK Athletics has these stricter standards, I believe. Got in the final on time, the final time qualifier. He's in third coming in at the home straight. He never left the rail. Ran 800 meters, I think. I'm not sure about the first lap, but the second lap, perfect 800 meters. 400 meters, and holds on for the bronze. It's a testament to him. Everyone knows the Max Bergen, who's a few months younger than him, but this kid grew up in the Max Bergen era, and he's the one walking home with the bronze medal. And I think we should talk about Arop first, but what we're talking about, Pattison, it brings to question the UK athletic selection policies. They have these tougher standards. We're not going to take you unless you can medal at Worlds.
Well, the standard is you have to hit the auto standard, essentially, which was 1:44.7. And again, World Athletics, when they set these auto standards, they said specifically, we are doing it so that only half of the field gets this standard. They made them very, very hard on purpose. And UK Athletics was like, no, we'd rather just send people we think, can get top 8 or can medal. But as you can see in the comments here, we had one from the start of the show from iCrip05. And he brought this point up. Are they honestly saying if he hadn't snuck in at the end of the qualifying period, this result was impossible? It's a great point. Okay, he did run the 1:44.03 in London, but he was in 1:44.03 shape before that race. If he doesn't get in that race, he doesn't go to Worlds. He doesn't go to Worlds. He doesn't medal. And I think what we said at the time was this is kind of a no harm, no foul thing. If someone if you earn the spot at Worlds, I don't think anyone can complain that you should be going if you were second at the national trials, which Pattison was. And what's the worst thing that happens? They go out in the rounds. So what? The kid's 21. He gets some experience. You know why Ben Pattison was able to get it done on the biggest stage here? I would have to think part of the reason is because he's been running in national team competitions for years. He ran the European Team Championships earlier this year in Poland. Last year, he runs the European Championships and gets 6th. He was the bronze medalist at the Commonwealth Games last year. So that's 2 international competitions. The year before that, 2021, European Juniors, he gets 4th. 2019, European Juniors, he was the silver medalist. He's been to a bunch of championships. And guess what? When you run through the rounds, when you run in tactical races, especially in the 800, unless you're Marco Arop and you're just way better than everyone else, that sort of experience helps. Ben Pattison, if they run this in a Diamond League, does he get third? Maybe not. But this was a championship final. There was strategy, there was positioning and tactics. He was positioned well, and he took advantage. And especially in the 800, where it's such a wide open event and kind of can be a crapshoot getting to the final. If you get to the final in the 800, you can medal. So he took advantage, but I hope UK Athletics can take this and learn from it and see, hey, there might actually be a benefit to sending these people, even if we don't think they're going to finish top 8 in the world.
Agreed. or at least have some discretion to take young athletes. But there's a lot of 800-meter runners, I think, in the world right now thinking, oh my God, Ben Pattison got a medal. I mean, he is somewhat of a phenom, 144 at 21. That's very good. But this is the guy essentially outside of Britain no one had heard of, maybe till that Diamond League meet, essentially. He ran 144 last year as well, but he's never done a Diamond League. I mean, we're talking about the London Diamond League. That was an official Diamond League event. He's going to go do one now afterwards. And, I mean, his life has radically changed because of this medal. But before the gun went off, John, David Monty of Race Results Weekly, former elite athlete coordinator for the New York City Marathon, turned to us and said, where do you think Bryce Hoppel finishes? I had this premonition beforehand. I said, this thing is wide open. I realized we haven't had a splash page the whole championships. We should have done one for Josh Kerr, but we all got here that day, so nobody was back home who really knew how to do the splash page. And it's like, maybe, like, we need a gold. We need a distance gold. And I didn't really think it was going to happen. Instead, he was dead last.
Promoted to 7th after Jamal Sajadi was DQ'd for, I'm not sure why. But
lane violation.
Okay. Oh, we hadn't had one of those for a while. Yeah. I mean, no one missed them, lane violations. It's like no one was clamoring, oh, I saw this person step on the line. They should have been DQ'd,
Full disclosure, I didn't really look into that, but what else you could DQ an 800 for, unless you knock somebody down?
Yeah, okay. That sounds, let's just go with that. Yeah, not a good run for Hoppel. This has not been a good event for the Americans ever since Donovan Brazier won the world title. I think maybe this is the punishment. You get that glorious night in Doha, but the next few years, I know Hoppel medaled at World Indoors last year, but 2021 Olympics, Clayton Murphy makes the final, finishes last. 2022 Worlds on home soil, the U.S. gets 4 entrants and sends none of them to the semifinals. 2023 Worlds, Bryce Hoppel is the lone American in the final. He gets lost. It's a tough event. I'm not trying to say it isn't, but when you contrasted it, how dominant the U.S. is in this event on the women's side, the men, it hasn't been a great stretch since Brazier's lost hurrah. So let's go to Arop, though. He's the champion, and I was so impressed by this. I talked to his coach, Chris Woods, in the mix zone afterwards, and I was like, was this the plan? Like, he's known as a front runner, and they were trying to say, well, he's got his reputation as a front runner. It's like, well, because most of the time he is a front runner. Like, Monaco and Paris were his 2 last Diamond Leagues before Worlds. What did he do? He was at the front. What did he do in last year's World Championship final? He led until 700 to go. What did he do in the Olympic semis in Tokyo? Led until 700 to go. That's been his reputation and his bread and butter. But what his coach told me after Tokyo was they kind of realized, all right, we got to be able to run ourselves in different situations. He was having success as a front runner. Like, he won 2 Diamond Leagues after Tokyo in 2021. He got the bronze at Worlds last year, but unless you're David Rudisha and you can run away from everyone every single race, it does help to have other cards to play, to say, hey, maybe I don't want to just fight really hard to get the lead early, and then maybe I spend too much energy and I don't have a kick or anything at the end. So this race, essentially they went in and he's like, look, I'm the coach, but Marco's the quarterback. If he wants to call an audible, he can do that. And almost as soon as he got off the line, Arop just kind of figured, you know what, it's going to be really hard battling for the lead. I'm just going to back off. I'll stay at the back. I'll be okay. I trust my fitness, trust my racing ability. And proved to be a good decision. He made that, he started moving up on the first turn of the final lap. He makes a big move on the back straight to get to the lead. Our old mantra, you only get one move in the 800. And what do we usually say in these middle distance races? Well, if you're going to make a big move like this, you need to get to the lead. He did that. He had the lead at the final turn. He's able to run on the inside that one, and he was just strong enough to hold it all the way to the finish line. But, I wouldn't call it necessarily a tactical masterclass, but it was fine. I don't think it was like he ran a little extra distance, but sometimes that does happen. It is, I always say, like, freak out, like, oh, we ran extra distance here. I mean, sometimes it's kind of unavoidable, but he moved up when he had to on the back straight. And I think he probably would have won this race if it was a 142 race. He's just the best guy, and I think he would have won either way. But this is how he won it, and it's pretty impressive. A guy known as a front runner wins it from come from behind fashion.
It was super impressive. People in the comments saying, "Oh, I think it's the 141 guy."
Maybe pump the brakes on that, but I think 142 right now wouldn't be surprising. 141.
The dude is like a physical specimen, man. Like he looks powerful. He's maybe Rudisha was pretty powerful, leaner, I would say, but this was impressive. Because when we were talking to Chris Woods, I was worried about him at the bell. He has too much ground to make up, but then he's going to have to go too hard on the backstretch and run out of space. Maybe this shows Robert's mantra. You get one move in the 800 if you know how to do it. But I can see he's fighting for the lead on the backstretch. That's your move, and then you're dead for the last 150. And Robert's other mantra, right? He hates coaches younger than him who are doing better than him. Well, Chris Woods, 37 years of age. Cool story. He's been the Ole Miss coach from what?
He said he was the interim director of that program, or head coach at 32, and full-time head coach at 33. Of an SEC school, around Mississippi State, it's not Arkansas or Texas A&M, but yeah, they've churned out some pretty good athletes still.
But even then, it's harder. He would say this: Mississippi State is at the bottom rung, traditionally, of the SEC in all sports. I'm sure maybe there's a couple sports they're good at, like baseball or something, but football, basketball, whatever. They're just in track. They're not a top tier school. They don't have the money that the other schools have. It's hard to compete like that. Well, now they have a world champion at 800. They have an NCAA champions at 800. He's doing a fabulous job. Chris said he's a former 800-meter runner himself. Grew up in the Atlanta area. 147 guy. He ran for Mississippi State himself in the Steve Mullins era. We got to get this guy on the podcast because I said, "Hey, Steve." He said he's on the team and Steve Mullins, and I said, "Oh, did we misplay that one?" He said, "Well, at the time, I was 18 years old and a freshman." Yeah, I thought so, but now I probably view it a little bit differently. And for those of you not familiar, Steve Mullins was an NCAA sprinter and international sprinter. He was banned for I think was it a whereabouts or doping positive?
I thought it was some supplement or something.
Yeah, some supplement. I think it was a positive test. He was banned internationally, and the NCAA was letting him compete. And we just went crazy and let's run. He should not. The NCAA needs to do something. They need to stop him. He flew out to Oregon, and then they stopped him last second. And I can see how if you're Mississippi State, you don't like that. But that's a different thing. But back to the coach, he was saying, "Look, Arop's gold is essentially all my mistakes as an 800-meter runner. I now use that when I coach these athletes. So every mistake I made, I try to make sure they don't make. And they knew that this front running thing was his only style, essentially, that he was comfortable with. So they really worked on a different style. It paid off in spades today. So great job to him. And USA, let's get back going at this event. We're still better at the 800 than we are at the 15, the 5K. Well, I don't know, Grant Fisher usually 5K or 10K. It's
men's 5K. Abdi Noor is medaling tomorrow. I don't know if you heard the message, but yeah, it's been a rough couple years, but it's a hard one to get a medal in. There were a few dark years in the 2000s, and then Nick Willis and Dwayne Solomon come along, and Nick Simmons was one of the best guys in the world, but even him, he got one medal. 2013. It was hard to get. It's hard to make these finals. It's a brutal qualifying process. Unless you're a Rudisha level talent, it's hard to just know you'll be in the final every year. Clayton Murphy has made 3 finals, and he got 1 bronze and 2 lost places. Basically, I think he was lost in Doha. That was when the Salazar news kind of broke his brain, and it's difficult to just make those finals. So I'm not saying this is a total disaster that, they had a finalist, 1 out of 8, but it's tough. It's difficult, a grueling event. And I know every event at this level is difficult, but the 800 in particular, those rounds, man, they're unforgiving.
Okay, a few points of order here. People want to know where Rojo is. Those of you not familiar, Rojo is the
You think anyone listening to this show
Easy.
doesn't know who Rojo is?
Some people live on YouTube.
I guess
John.
maybe they're first-time viewers.
Rojo's the life of the party of the podcast.
He likes to think there's nothing without him, and that
if
there's why do we even do the show if Robert's not on it? But
and Rojo's back in the States. He's here from the first part of the world. We sort of decided having some remote doesn't work, but we got to get Rojo tomorrow. The end of worlds, we got to have Rojo on the show. So we'll reach out to Rojo, try to get him here. And then the other thing people are asking me to talk about the marathon. No, this is the first distance event we've talked about. But real quickly, people are talking about Will Sumner in the comments. That's the future of US 800 meter running. Oh my God, I forgot about Will Sumner. Thank you. So glad he turned pro. But who knows? Like, you have a very limited window in this thing. Clayton Murphy got the bronze in 2016. We think, better things. It was harder back then. Better things are in store for him. Hasn't happened. People want to know, what did Will Sumner say after the race? We don't know. He did not speak to NBC.
Bryce Hoppel, you mean?
Excuse me, Bryce Hoppel. He didn't speak to NBC. He didn't even come through the mix zone. Like, usually that's impossible. They literally make them walk through a maze that probably takes 5 minutes. They have to go by like US TV, like
the only
international radio, print journalist, us internet journalists.
Yeah, the only way out is supposedly through if you have a medical issue. And I spoke to USATF's communications people. They didn't know what was up with him. I reached out to his agent, Mark Wetmore, didn't hear anything. He just said, I'll look into it, but I haven't heard back from him. So we don't really know what was up with Bryce Hoppel. All we know is he didn't talk to NBC and he didn't come through the mix zone.
All right. Let's go to the women's 5K. This was one of the most anticipated matchups, I think, on paper. You had Gudolf Segay, who's been phenomenal at 1,500 and 5. Last year's champion at 5K.
And the 10,000 meter champion from this meet.
My God, I forgot about that. Because I wasn't here that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 10K champion. Because I think of Hassan. Sifan Hassan, the world's most versatile distance runner ever. London Marathon champ. Maybe he was going to win that 10K, but I don't know. I think Segay might have beaten her at the end, but she fell right before the finish. Who was doing the triple here. And then Faith Kipyegon, who utterly dominated the 1,500, the world record holder at 1,500 and 5K.
Can we give a shout out to Beatrice Chibet too? World cross country champion, runner up last year in the 5,000 meters.
Yeah, like she totally gets overlooked, which isn't fair. And I'm not sure what Segay was thinking. Hassan, I will give a pass. Or Chibet. Hassan, I give a pass. She's tripling. She's got a good kick. Segay's got a good kick too, but they just let this come down seriously to the last lap. I mean, they're running like 70s, 76s at times. Like, it wasn't fast at all. The penultimate lap was a 68, I believe. That's 14:32 pace. And bell goes off. Faith Kipyegon blast 56 seconds for the win. Hassan gave her a run for her money. I'll say that much. Hassan had a great kick.
That was the best kick she's shown all year.
But I don't see how you think you're going to beat the world's greatest 1,500 meter runner in a kick in a 5K if it comes down to one lap. I guess maybe you roll the dice and they think, I don't understand the logic.
Well, with Segay specifically, I can take a guess. She probably wasn't feeling very good. She was 13th in this race. Well, then. She just totally ran out of steam, had no kick to speak of the last lap. If you're not able to kick, and she usually is, remember, she outkicked Hassan and Chibet to win the London Diamond League just before Worlds. That was, a faster race. That was a 14:12 race, and she closed in 60.3. This one, she closed a lot slower, and it was a much slower race. So that to me says Segay just wasn't feeling it. Maybe she wasn't recovering. She ran the heats of the 5K, but maybe she was still feeling the effects of the 10. Maybe something else was off. I don't know. She was not in her game. As for everyone else, I was talking to a friend of Let'sRun.com, Carl Dennehy, about this. And I was just like, why would they do this? Why? It reminded me of the 2007 World Championships in Osaka when Bernard Lagat won the 1,500. He doubled back in the 5K. And it was a 13:40 race. And I'm just like, you guys saw this guy win the 1,500, right? Why would you want anything to do with him over the last 400 meters? But no one took it. And Lagat kicked them all on the last lap. And he was the last person, male or female, to win the 1500 5K double at Worlds or Olympics. Kipyegon, first woman to do it ever, and the first of either sex since Lagat. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, why would you let her hang around? But then I'm like, well, what are you going to do to beat? Like Carl told me, he's like, yeah, but what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to try to drop the world record holder. Like, there's just not really a lot of good options when you're facing one of the greatest runners in the history of the planet.
Yeah, fair enough, right? You're doubling or tripling back. In the case of Hassan and Sage, you're like, okay, I'm a very good 1500-meter runner. I'm better than Chibet. If it comes down to one lap, I probably will get a medal. And good point on Sage. I mean, 13th place, she had nothing this last lap because there were essentially everybody but 14 women were together in the pack at the bell. And Kipyegon wins it, Hassan second, Chibet third, Margaret Kipkenboy fourth. But the Americans, Elise Craney ninth. Monson was the last of that group kicking. She was 14th. Like 3 seconds back of the person in front of her. She didn't have a good final lap, but I don't really expect much more in this race. I don't think the Japanese runner should beat them, Nozomi Tanaka, on a final lap like that, but everyone else is more credentialed. Kind of got what you expected on that front.
No, I agree. I talked to them, and they know that no American woman's ever medaled in this event. And I'm like, how do we close the gap? What happens? And they're just like, look, you just got to be better at running. Like, there's nothing, they can't strategically come up with some brilliant plan to get a medal or something in this event. Alicia Monson said, hey, I knew I was in better 10K shape. She came close in the 10K, or at least she finished fifth. I think there's still a gap between her and the medalists. But the 10K, sometimes some of the top women don't show up. You can sneak in. This was a loaded 5K, one of the most loaded 5Ks the World Championships has ever seen. I mean, look at these last laps well done for the top three. Kipyegon, 56.59. Hassan, 56.77. Chibet, 56.86. I mean, Beatrice Chibet closed a World Championship final in 56.86 for a 5K and couldn't even get the silver medal. I know the winning time was only 14.53, but that's just a ridiculous ton of speed. Someone, I think on the message boards or on Twitter, was like, could Alicia Monson run a 56-second 400 just open, all out?
I doubt it.
Yeah. These women are ridiculously good. And, you add Kipyegon in there, who doesn't normally do it. It's just, asking the Americans to beat them, it's just not fair. If an American wants to get a medal, an American has to be like one of the best women in the history of this event, the way it's going right now, because Hassan and Kipyegon are all-time legends of the sport. So it was fun in the press conference afterwards, the mutual respect between them. Kipyegon said, Hassan said, we were going to the medal ceremony for the 1500 the other day. Actually, Kipyegon said this, and she turned to Hassan and was just like, how did you win the London Marathon in April? She couldn't believe it either, just like the rest of us. And Hassan was like, yeah, I just can't avoid Faith. She runs these events, and, she would have been the gold medalist if Faith Kipyegon did what she normally did and just runs the 15. But instead, Faith moves up, and Faith has talked about moving up to the marathon at some point. It's just great to see these women pushing themselves. That's what Faith talked about, was like they want to challenge their limits and the limits of the sport, and they help push each other. It's awesome to see, because not every superstar in this sport is like that. Not everyone would double like Kipyegon or triple like Hassan, or go after, world records and run a bunch of Diamond League meets, or run the London Marathon. Like, these two try cool stuff, and it makes them, I'm sure for most fans, it makes them fairly easier. Well, I know Hassan has the NOP history, so there are definitely people who are skeptical of her. But if you are a Hassan believer, it makes them easy to root for, because they are out there pushing and trying things and racing a whole bunch.
People in the comments here want Kipyegon for some reason to become an American citizen around the United States. I don't think that's even a possibility, but hey, good idea. We're a country of immigrants, baby. There's also a comment here. Is Sifan's kick from 21 long gone? We can look into this more afterwards, but real quickly, I pulled up a recap of the 2021 Olympic 5,000 meters. Hassan there dropped to 57.36 to win. It was a faster race, 14.36, but she ran 56 point today. She ran 57 to win the Olympics. Her kick was very good today. I don't think her kick is different. The difference was Kipyegon was in this race.
Yeah, and I will give Hassan credit. We criticized her in both the 10K and the 15 for being a little far back when she started her kick. This time, she was right on Kipyegon at the bell. I guess she was a little behind, and she ended up only losing by a little, so maybe that does make a bit of a difference, but this wasn't like she had to do a lot of extra sprinting to put herself in position. She was there. She got beat by the better athlete on the day. There's no shame in that.
Yeah, she's only point. This shows, though, John, why you need to do this. This one wasn't really in doubt. I mean, she did put up a fight the final stretch, but she's only 0.23 behind.
I thought it was kind of in doubt in the home straight. Kipyegon was not separating. Chibet and Hassan were pretty close. I'm like, this. I didn't think it was over. I said that midway down. I guess it's not over.
It never got to oh my God. It's just like, it's not over. But so, yeah. You lose by 0.23, but if you're spotting them 0.6, 0.8, that's where I get back to the Arop thing. It's hard to make that up. But
my question to you, well, as a fan of the sport, what would you like to see Faith Kipyegon do next? Because she has broken the world record in the mile, 1500, and 5K this year. She won the world title in the 1500 and 5K. Do you want to do a Hassan-style triple in Paris? Do you want her to move down to the 800 and take on a thing mode? Do you want her to try and move up to the roads and the marathon? She did say she's going to be running the road mile championships at the road. She'll be running the mile at the World Road Running Championships in Latvia in October. Athletics Kenya named her to the team. I thought this was one of these things. Athletics Kenya just names them and without their knowledge, but she seemed committed to it that she's planning on doing it. So that'll be fun. But what would you like to see Faith Kipyegon take on next?
100% the 800. People are saying go for the 3K world record. I mean, that's one of the better records in the books. I don't care about the 3K record that much. I mean, I guess if, Coleman 720 and all that stuff, but this drugged Chinese record, I don't care. But the 800, I guess it's a drugged 800 record, but
I don't care about the record. I want to see her race Mo and Hodgkinson. That would be
exactly
sick. Yeah.
She's shown she can blast these things. It'd be a different style of running. She may be terrible at it. It's so rare to be a world-class 15 and 8 runner. So I'm just curious. She's so damn good. What could she do for an 800? So I'd rather have her go that direction.
I mean, she's run 3:49 for 1500. I'm pretty sure she can run 1:56 for 800. The question is, Mo and Hodgkinson, they've both run 1:55. Can she get down there and challenge him? I mean, she has a much better shot. Will you admit this? She has a much better shot at beating Mo in the 800 than Mo does of beating her in the 15.
Oh, yeah. Mo has no chance of beating her, zero chance of beating her in the 15.
Yeah.
I mean, she could fall down, get up, and still probably beat her. The 8, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, what did she close in Rio in, John, again?
Rio, she closed in 1:57 for her last 800.
So I'm not sure how
much
better she does open.
But she's a better runner than she was in Rio,
right.
too.
So I'd like to think she can run for sure 1:55s. Give it a go. I don't need her to see it run another 1500 this year. She already has a world record there. She has a world record in 5K. But one thing did come up, John, speaking of the 5K in the press conference, and we need to see this. This has fallen off the radar. I thought this would happen this year. It hasn't. Next year with the Olympic year, it may not. Do you know what I'm referencing?
No.
14 flat for women's 5K.
Oh, yes. Sifan Hassan did bring that up, and she thinks it can be broken. I mean, the record is 14:05, I believe, 0.20 now by Kipyegon. And look, Kipyegon did that closing in 60 flat. She basically just did that sitting on Latessa McGee. I think if you get Hassan or Kipyegon, I mean, it needs to be Hassan with a little bit of track focus training, but put Kipyegon in a race and you set the pacing lights to 13:59.9. I think she could run that.
People are wanting her to run the marathon. John indicated she has an interest in doing that. I have zero interest in her running the marathon. I guess I thought Sifan Hassan couldn't do anything in the marathon. She proved me wrong. No, I want to see you in the 800. and we'll keep the show going here, but people want to know if Moo medals, will they force her to attend the press conference? Well, it's already been announced, all you conspiracy theorists out there, there will be no women's 800-meter press conference tomorrow. Now, in a matter of transparency, most events don't have actual press conferences. They sort of reserve them for the very big ones. They didn't have them even for 4x1s tonight, but they said, oh, the women's 5K, we're going to have a press conference. They had them yesterday for the 200s. But the 800 is one of the most anticipated matchups here. You know, you've got Britain's number one versus Thing Mo, and they're already saying no press conference. The caveat is they're saying, look, there's so many events tomorrow. Have they announced what they're having press conferences for?
Yeah, but the reasoning here was normally the medal ceremonies are the next day before the day's action. But because tomorrow is the last day, there is no medal ceremony the next day. They're doing all the medal ceremonies on Sunday night after the events are over. So they want to get the athletes there in time, which means they're going to have limited media availability. And there are some where they say, oh, they're going to come through the mix zone and then they'll go to the medal ceremony. And there are others where they say they'll go to the medal ceremony and then there'll be a press conference. So they'll go through the mix zone. The only one where it's different is there is the women's 800 where they'll go through like the live mix zone and then they'll have limited availability in the non-live mix zone, which is where we happen to inhabit. So, I mean, I assume Mo would talk to NBC, but in terms of her talking to us, not a guarantee.
USATF's kind of good. They know where to make people stop. If there's no press conference, I think they'll try. I think if she medals, she'll speak. If she doesn't, she won't. What if she gets second or third, though? I don't know.
I think it would be we already complained about it yesterday. It would be great if she could talk to us tomorrow, win or lose. We hope it happens, but we don't know.
Maybe we shouldn't be too critical. She's at least at the damn meet. Thank you for running a thing, Mo. But like, oh, man, there's just so much pressure. Who knows what's going on? But I'm calling her Moo. I don't call her Mo. I think Mo.
You've called her Moo a few times. I don't know if it would. I guess
turning into Rojo, man. John said I've done.
I mean,
some
you
really
called him. You still call Usain Bolt every so often.
Well, I didn't know that till he retired. No one corrected me for 5 years, for 10 years.
I've corrected you multiple times this year, and you still do it. But
so I apologize if Rojo, it's genetic, it's taking over for me. But I mean, we've got the women's 8 tomorrow and the men's 5. That's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, we had the marathon this morning as well. If we want to discuss that before
we go to the marathon before the 4x1s. Full disclosure, I did not go to the marathon finish. I woke up, watched part of the second half. John, when did you start watching?
I got there around about 8:05.
Okay, so that's good. I mean, John was probably on 3 hours sleep. I was 4 hours maybe when I got up. And the pace was dawdling because it was like mid 70s at the start, 80s at the finish, sunny, high dew point. And then they decided to get the pace going. Soon it's like a pack of like 9. Next thing I know, I just see 4 green runners, green singlets to the front. Ethiopia is going 1, 2, 3, 4. And Ethiopia they had the world champ last year in Gautam Gebrselassie, but everyone else dropped out, I think, last year, right? Like they don't have a history recently doing well in this.
7 of the 9 entrants across the last 3 global championships dropped out on the women's side. 2022 Worlds, 2021 Olympics, 2019 Worlds.
Yeah, so then next thing you know, the 4th placer, I need to look up her name, John. Anyway, she starts dropping back, grabs her side, and drops out while in 4th place. So
that's a classic. What's what we call a business decision.
This just shows what the World Championship Marathon is about to most of these people. It's not their priority. They come here on a flyer. If you're from Ethiopia, you're probably forced to run it. The federation's like, whatever, we'll make your life miserable if you don't go to this thing. You have to run it. And so they're like, okay, I'm going to try to medal. If I can't medal, I'm done. And it's probably understood with the federation. If you're not going to medal, you can drop out. You can drop out. Well, dropping out while in 4th place. So then the top 3 they start crushing it. Like, there's like no waiting. Like Y Squared's pushing it. Then Amane Beriso, who I guess I should know her new last name now, John. She's now going by Amane Beriso.
Another classic track move that we always complain about. Someone that we know by one name, and then suddenly Shankule is on her singlet, and we're just like, this is the same person. Just keep a consistent last name here.
I mean, I guess people get married and change their name in the States and we adapt, but
that's not what the situation is.
Eurosport was like, we're calling her Beriso. So maybe, I don't know, are we horrible people or not?
Well, the thing is, in Ethiopia, they usually just call each other by their first names. They don't, the last name stuff really isn't that important over there. But we need to figure out a consistent way of addressing these people and knowing who they are, because it confuses track fans when Viola Lagat suddenly shows up in a start list as Viola Cheptu.
Yeah. So Beriso, then it's down to Beriso and Y squared Yomzurf Yahula. And they're going over the bridge right near the spa where John and I went. Very beautiful time. Budapest is a very pretty city. You got all these beautiful bridges. The course highlighted it.
Danube's really nice. Well, the stadium location on the Danube is really cool. If you go out on the concourse, if you're in Budapest for this meet, I'm sure you've seen it at some point. It's really nice. There've been some very pretty sunsets, and you can see it right from the concourse on the river. It's a really cool place to hold a track meet.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a fabulous job in that aspect. And so Beriso breaks through. Y squared eventually falls back, and Gebrselassie passes her to get second. They're sort of clear. And then the only question mark essentially is like, this is the marathon. So even though Beriso's well clear of everybody, she could blow up. I mean, it can happen in the heat. You could misjudge it. And whether Y squared is going to hang on for the bronze. She ends up not. A Moroccan woman by the name of Fatima Gargadi, who claimed to fame before this, wasn't much. She'd won the Rabat and Marrakesh marathons in 2:25, made her marathon debut last year. That's it. Well, she did fabulous today in the heat. Ran 2:25 here. She gets the bronze. Lona Sepulter came up for fourth. Y squared was cooked at the end of this thing. For the Americans, early on was a big pack. Lindsay Flanagan.
Early on, Susanna Sullivan, before we started watching, Susanna Sullivan was at the front.
Oh, yeah.
She was like
leading. Gap, right?
I think so, yeah.
Actually, I saw that later. They're like, oh, she had a gap on the field. Didn't last long. So she had a gap. And then there's a lead pack through halfway. Everyone's focused on Kira D'Amato, the former American record holder, now American record holder of the half marathon. Can she medal? And once the pace got going, no. She said she was dealing with a leg issue, but I think her kids came over here. I mean, she's a mom. And
no, her kids were watching at home, but they were staying with grandma and probably had permission to stay up to watch mom run. She wanted to finish for them. She's like, if I had the opportunity to finish, I wanted to do it. I wanted to show them you stick it out. Now, obviously, she's got a very big race coming up in February, the Olympic marathon trials. So I think she knew enough that if she really thought she was going to do damage, she would have pulled the plug. But she just said she couldn't get power. Her right leg wasn't really firing properly. So she ends up fading to 17th. The American dude who did have a good run here today was Lindsay Flanagan. She got 9th, 2:27:47. She said in the heat in New York, remember last year, the New York City Marathon was pretty warm. She kind of had a rough go of it the last 10K, but this time around, she felt she handled it better. She was taking a pretty patient approach. So that paid off well for her. I still don't know if I'd put her on the top tier of contenders at the marathon trials, but look, this race, not dissimilar from what we would have as basically a worst case scenario in Orlando with that noon start. It was 70s up into the 80s. The dew point was in the mid to high 60s. There was decent amount of humidity. Like, this was pretty tough conditions for her to run 2:27 and not crater or anything at the end. That was a solid effort. So good run there for Lindsay Flanagan. I don't want to go there, but I think I have to. Amane Beriso, you made a great deal of what an amazing last 12 months she's had. So today's August 27th. It was August 26th when she ran this race, but it's now tomorrow in Budapest. And in the last 12 months, she's done the following. She won the Mexico City Marathon in 2:25:05.
John, that's impressive, though.
Yes, because Mexico City is like 8,600 feet.
Yeah.
That's a shitload of altitude. So that was August 28th, 2022. Then she goes to Valencia, wins that 2:14:58, number 3 time in history. Then 2023, Boston Marathon, second behind only Helen Obiri, 2:21:50. And now today, August 26th in Budapest, 2:24:23, world champion. So that's 4 marathons in the last 12 months. She's won 3 of them. The other one was Boston. She finished second. I mean, I just can't help thinking, is this too good to be true, Weldon? She's 31 years old. She basically really didn't she debuted it pretty quickly in 2016.
Pre-Super Shoes, that's pretty good.
Pre-Super Shoes, 2:20 in Dubai. Yes, that's not nothing. But for the next few years, she doesn't run faster than 2:22. And she's away from this, she has bouts of injury. That's what her coach, Comedo Defo, told me in Valencia last year. But man, it's just, how much of a track record do we have of a woman who wasn't really doing all that much for a while, just at age 31 coming on the scene and just not just winning, but kind of dominating in some of the biggest races in the world?
It's pretty much unprecedented. But the Sharika Jackson comment, you can be suspect all you want, right? But just, she said, like, unless you funk a drug test, it's the world record or whatever. So I can't say anything. If I were to defend her, I will say, look, she debuted in 2:20 way back in the day, pre-Super Shoes. So I don't know. You want to make that a 2:17? Maybe faster. I have no idea. Since then, she's been hurt, whatever. But she was winning like second-tier marathons, like Mumbai Marathon. It's hotter than hell in Mumbai. Like, you're not going to run a good time there. She never did it well with the majors, but then she had to like drop down to these like BS races. Then COVID happens. But the thing that's crazy is like essentially last year, Valencia was set up as a world record attempt for Gide. No one expected anything from her except her coach. Her coach told you, like, I told her, like, go with the leaders. Like, I've never seen something like this.
Well,
right?
she couldn't even, her coach in the technical meeting, they didn't tell everyone what pace the pacemakers were going for Gide. They're just like, oh, here are the other 3 groups or whatever. And he had to like I think he ended up getting it from Valentine Trout, who's Gide's agent. It was basically like, hey, what pace is Gide going out at? We have a woman who's in really good shape and we think she can go with her. And then she ended up going with her. And then they got a little frustrated at the end because when Beriso passed Gide, the pacemakers stayed with Gide instead of pushing on with Beriso. And the Defo thought that costed the world record. I don't think it actually did, but she could have run a few seconds faster. Anyway, yeah, look, this is different from what Sharika Jackson's explanation was, because she was talking about a woman, Flojo, who was being tested in the 80s when the testing protocol was not nearly as strict and severe, no out of competition, no notice testing like we have, which is commonplace today. I'm sure the athletics integrity unit is aware of Beriso's big improvement, that they look into her. I'm sure they're testing her. So does that, the fact that she's passing tests, does that mean 100% she's clean? No, but it does earn her some benefit of the doubt, even if the progression is pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah. Do I think women can run 2:14 in the marathon? Yeah. I paced Paula Radcliffe back in the day. Pre-Super Shoes, pre-everything. This is what? Wow, John. We should have celebrated the 20th anniversary last year. 20 years. Well, the 2:15 has just turned 20 years this year. The last year was when I paced her 21 years ago. She ran 2:17 in Chicago. Like, yeah, I thought she was clean. So, Super Shoes, do I think someone can run faster? Yes. Does someone want to be suspect of all these people? Go ahead. Like, I don't blame you. So, it's the sort of problem with the sport. But, John, you do point out the drug testing is way better than it's ever been. Can people still beat it? Sure. We see top stars popping left and right. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. So that was your women's marathon. Let's talk about these 4x1s, Weldon. It's kind of crazy. It's taken us almost 50 minutes to get there. These were fun.
We're going to have a short show tonight so we can get up for the marathon. Never happens.
No, I think tomorrow morning, if you're relying on, well, I'll try to wake up for like the last hour of the men's marathon, but I don't plan on going to the press center like I did today. Yeah, the 4x1s, Look, you know what is a great rivalry? One of the greatest rivalries in track and field?
Italy and the USA and 4x1?
No, if only. USA versus Jamaica. You know, it's awesome. I'm watching like Sharika Jackson and Sha'Carri Richardson on that ankle leg welding. Was your blood just pumping? I was like, this is effing awesome. Like, this is exactly what the sports needs. We've got two fantastic athletes, rival countries. We saw them square off 3 times in 1 week. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah. And these races, the 200 last night, I assume you guys did it for the 100 too. Although Rojo stayed in I can't believe he stayed in the mix zone to interview some random athlete instead of watching the men's 100 final. He should lose his press credential for that. Yeah. But these are the races we move above the finish. We stand above the finish. But John, I noticed for the relays, you move to the right, more to the start. What are you doing? What's your thought process there?
There was someone, the person directly in front of me was standing up and blocking my view. So I just wanted to.
I didn't move 1 foot to your left. It'd been very easy.
I was getting towards. We were sort of going towards the broadcaster section, which we're not really supposed to be in because we're written press or internet press. So I just went a little further away. It didn't impact my experience of the race. I still had a good view. But no, it was fun.
Yeah, I thought maybe Sharika would cut into the lead. I don't really think she did.
She did a little bit, I think.
Not much, though.
But no.
I thought she might run her down. I don't know how. I would like to know, like, some technical analysis, like how far ahead was she, like at point whatever, and see the splits. But you know, how much time was that gap? I don't know if that's like 0.1 or 0.3 or whatever it was at the start. I guess we can look at the finish times. But the U.S. woman ran very well. The championship record, I think it's the 4th fastest of all time.
Yeah, 4th fastest time ever. The only 3 faster times was the winning time in the last 3 Olympic finals. 41:03. Team was Tamari Davis, TT Terry, Gabby Thomas, Sha'Carri Richardson. I thought 3 of the 4 handoffs were pretty darn good. I mean, you don't run 41:03 without some good handoffs. The first exchange, which was Davis to Terry, Davis kind of ran up on Terry a little bit, so that one probably could have been improved, but otherwise a fairly smooth ride. And yeah, a fantastic anchor showdown with Richardson and Jackson. I'm like, oh, Jackson, does she have the edge? Because, you know, as a 200 runner, you might get a little extra boost from having the running start, but I was probably overthinking it. I don't know. It was fun to see them battling it out in the ankle leg. And the cool thing was the American men they were in the midst of their victory lap, and they basically paused to watch the women. And Sha'Carri crosses the finish line. She's celebrating. She gets midway through the first turn. There's Christian Coleman coming over to celebrate, he just run the leadoff leg on the men's 4x1. And they kind of go in for a hug, except Sha'Carri's moving so fast that it ended up basically being Christian Coleman tackling her to the ground. And I'm like, oh my God, did you just...
She went down. She was almost clothesline, though. I mean, it's almost like she.
I was like an NFL hit. I was like, is Sha'Carri okay? This is a valuable national resource. But they were all good. They were celebrating. They were amped up. It was just really cool. Like, the cool thing I thought, both the men's and women's 4x1, is you have these athletes who are kind of rivals in their events, right? Gabby Thomas and Sha'Carri Richardson in the 200. Noah Lyles and Fred Curley certainly exchanged some bobs in the opening press conference back last Friday. But when they're on the same team, that Team USA, like Noah Lyles and Coleman, remember 2019? They had their little feud, but when they won gold in Doha together, they were like, yeah, you know, country over the feud. So it was cool to see them set aside whatever differences they may have and do it for the United States. So that was fun to see.
Yeah. And the U.S. won it by 0.18. So they probably had like a 0.2 something lead at the start. Real quick, Gabby Thomas, this is her first gold medal. I don't think she's ever won a relay gold or anything, which sounds crazy.
Yeah, Gabby Thomas, maybe
Has she not been on a 4x4 before?
No.
She didn't make worlds last year.
So she didn't make worlds last year because she was injured. 2021.
She wasn't a 400.
She wasn't on the 400. Remember, we had the dream team of Mo, McLaughlin, Lavroni, Muhammad, and Felix. So she couldn't crack that. Yeah, this was her first gold medal at the global championships. And really, Gabby Thomas probably should have had 3.
Yeah.
She got screwed over in the mixed gender 4x4 because they could only make one substitution from the prelims to the final, and they had to sub out who was it who ran the subpar leg for the US? Ryan Willie. And instead of whatever woman they were going to sub out for Gabby Thomas. So she doesn't get to run that, which the US wins. And then the 4x4, this is shocking. Well, and if you told me the Americans would win both 4x1s, and they don't even get to the final of the 4x4 on the women's side, I've been like, what the hell are you talking about? But the final exchange of the 4x4 prelims by the United States was just god awful. They were easily on track to qualify, but Quinira Hayes handing off to Alexis Holmes, the hero of the women's 4x4, they couldn't get the handoff done. And in that situation, in a 4x4,
stop.
You just come to a complete stop. Even if you lose momentum, Alexis Holmes is good enough that she can still run and finish in the top 3 and qualify. The one thing you absolutely cannot do is leave the exchange zone, which is what happened, and they ended up getting DQ'd for it. So that was a disaster. I mean, Sieg Lindstrom of Track and Field News, he's been to a million of these things. He's been following the sport for ages. And he was telling, I think, David Monti, he couldn't remember the last time he saw a team DQ'd in the 4x4 for exchanging out of the zone. It just doesn't happen. They're not running as fast as the 4x1. It shouldn't happen. But it did to the Americans. So, hey, maybe Femke Bol gets a second gold medal here and gets her revenge for the 4x4. Sorry, the mixed gender 4x4. Jamaica's still around. You got some other teams they have to beat. But I can tell you one thing, it's not going to be the Americans.
Yeah, this might have been different with the U.S. I'm trying to see what the second time qualifier was. Somebody appealed and got in. Maybe 324. Maybe there wasn't that much room for error, but you can't get DQ'd. I'm sorry. I mean, it's just an honest error. You stop or something.
Well, your options are leave the zone, you're DQ'd, you're out. Or stay in the zone, and you're coming from behind, but you're at least still in the race.
4x4. Make sure you get the damn baton. There's no reason to, in a prelim with the U.S., the talent they have, to risk it. So that was crazy. But the first 4x1 was the men, and USA, they got it done. And the least heralded member of the team, I'm not a sprint coach, so maybe people will criticize him because he was involved in 2 testy exchanges. I'm giving him the credit for the gold medal. This dude delivered. Brandon Carnes, he went to Northern Iowa. He's a coach there now. I guess we can train, but not really known for his sprinting abilities. He's on the third leg. Curly's trying to hand off it to him. Their hands are crossed or something. Somehow, I
don't know how they got that baton off. Well, that was bad.
Because you're not looking back. You can't see. Their hands were behind each other. We're totally crisscrossed. Somehow he gets it. But now the baton, it's too low in his hand. So right before he comes in and hands to Noah Lyles, he grabs his other hand and pushes the baton up so it's more out, and then hands it to Noah.
Which also was not a smooth handoff, but they got it done.
Yeah, Noah's wasn't smooth, but somehow Noah never looked back, and Noah cruises to gold. And as Andre Grass said yesterday, he's he already gave us the gold. He's this is Noah's championship, still gonna get gold tomorrow. And I'm that's confident. You see,
I mean, it does kind of look. We've compared him to Bolt a lot, but it did feel like Bolt. The Jamaicans would kind of joke that the Americans would always screw up the relay, and the Jamaicans yeah, we never really practiced this stuff. We did a few handoffs this week, and they're just we got Bolt, we'll win. We got Bolt and Powell, and they're just we're Jamaica, we win the 4x1 every year. That's what they do. So it kind of had that kind of feeling. I mean, I'm sure there was some relay camp work done here. I think Wallace Spearman is now the relays coach, and they deserve some. Look, we rip the relays coach when the U.S. screws up, which they do quite frequently. But this year, at least the 4x1s got it done. 4x4, another matter for the women.
I'll give Wallace a pass on the 4x4 because.
And he's also the men's relay coach. I think Michelle.
I don't even think it's oh my God, we're going to screw up the 4x4. It's not even that hard.
Yeah, that one, that's I mean, right. I don't put as much blame on the coach as I do on the athlete in that situation. But
so
the 4x1, look, Brandon Carnes, unsung hero. I think that's just such a moment of quick thinking. You're doing this at high speed to know, okay, I've got it in my hands holding the top, but it really needs to be holding the bottom to hand it to Noah and to switch hands, but to not to fumble the baton. That was a piece of quick thinking that he needed to do, and may have saved the gold medal, may have saved the triple gold for Noah. So I'm praising Brandon Carnes here for not panicking and for making sure the baton got safely from point C to point D, basically.
Yeah, good for them. Great for Noah Lyles. There was a lot of hype. We're going to obviously after Worlds talk more about big picture stuff, but okay. We have a face for track and field on the men's side and the women's heading into the Olympics next year. Well, it's funny because Sydney usually gets played up so much in a thing, Mo, but so Sydney, yeah, you don't show up. We don't even need to really talk about you next year. I guess still talk about her anyway because she might try the double or something historic, but we have Sha'Carri. She's already super popular. Well, now she's delivered. This meet couldn't have gone better. If you told me 3 medals, 2 gold, I mean, yeah, she can't do better than that. Sorry, I don't see her beating Gabby Thomas or Shrika Jackson in the 200 unless one of them messes up. So she brought it on the track. Noah Lyles brought it on the track. And it's interesting, John, like you said, with Bolt. Remember, though, last year, though, Noah said, I guarantee we win. It didn't happen. So we're going to go. It's just, it happens when the stars, it doesn't happen. But maybe there is more confidence. The team feeds off his confidence. Who knows? Whatever reason, it worked. And then afterwards, like, Noah, like, we've kind of said at the time, we feel like he's really trying at times with the media. Kind of, is he pushing some of these narratives a bit to make it popular? And I got a sense he was like more relaxed. He understands he's a role. He's like, I want to promote the sport. I want it to be more popular. But he spent a lot of time in the mix zone afterwards today. Like, he was doing interviews with the rest of the team. Then he went out and came back and on its own. Everybody was gone. I was just standing there, and there's like a social media influencer. I think it's called This Is Life or something, TIL. And he's like, oh, I know you want me. And so she went over. He did a thing with her. And then I asked him at the end of it, I was like, Noah, can I ask you one more question? And he's like, yeah, before this, he's like, I understand you guys have jobs to do. I have my own YouTube channel. I understand copyright stuff. Like, you guys work hard. If you have to go through my agents, I know it's hard to get in touch with me. Like, he feels a responsibility to the sport, which I appreciate. A lot of these other stars, I feel like they have responsibility to themselves. And Noah also, I think, appreciates, like, the press isn't the enemy. We're not there to necessarily be your friend all the time, but, like, anyway. But he said out John beforehand, before the first interview, he kind of gives me a fist bump. It's like, I look forward to your hot takes. And then I'm like, oh, I don't want him to think I'm Rojo. I'm like, that's my brother. That's my brother. I'm not the one who doubted you, so I threw Rojo under the bus. I should have said, oh, can we have you on the podcast? Damn it. I'm too much of a wimp. But it worked out for me.
He admits, we look, Noah Lyles, podcast listener. We know. Yeah. We know that at this point.
Maybe he's got a fake name for the supporters club. But then I said, hey, Noah, I asked the 4x1 guys, I'm like, what's next? Zurich, historically the best one-day track meet in the world. It's Weltklasse. It's next Friday, I believe, right, John?
Next Thursday.
We'll
be there, boots on the ground
and
coverage.
I'm like, you guys will all be in Weltklasse, and Coleman and I think Curly are like, no, I'll be in China. And I'm like, what? China's throwing your money? But it makes sense. There's a Chinese meet and a Zurich meet. They probably have different events. So the 100 guys are going to China. Noah will be in Zurich. And my sort of question at the end when he came back was like, Noah, you did everything you wanted. You exceeded expectations, but you said 19.1 and 9.65. Like, is there any talk of running fast? He's like, maybe I can go for the world record in Zurich. So
I'm not getting my hopes up. I mean, if Noah was running if instead of this World Championships, he had run a one-off 200 with a friendly tailwind, I do think he probably could have run something in the 19.2s. Totally fresh, but that's not how World Championships work. You've got a big stadium. You've got a bunch of races in the lead up. It's going to be hard. And remember, last year he goes to Monaco after Worlds, and we're like, oh, he just dropped the 19.31. Can he get the world record? No, he wasn't close. Like, he ran fast. It was like 19.4, 19.5. But Zurich is in 5 days. Well, then. Yeah. And he's had a pretty heavy workload at these World Championships. I'm just not expecting he'd be able to crank out a world record right after that. Also, I want to backtrack. Wallace Spearman, he was the relay coach, like kind of interim in Tokyo. He was helping out. this year is actually Mike Marsh was the men's relay coach. So
Really?
sorry, credit to Mike Marsh for helping US get the gold. It is interesting. We had all those rumblings like, oh, relay camp, like there was some drama on the women's team. I mean, couldn't really tell that tonight. Running 41:03, one of the fastest times ever.
Well, we need to get Mike Marsh on the podcast. I wanted Carl Lewis to be the coach, but Mike Marsh, the Carl Lewis era. So get someone experienced who's done it as a coach. So that was good to hear. John, we can't preview tomorrow. We're an hour 5 in.
Still have to write a 5K recap, and we've got a marathon starting in 5 hours. So
just I can write the 5K recap. They jogged around for 11 and a half laps and kicked 56 and then put the video and the results. Sorry if you don't watch it. Like, come on.
It was, I mean, it was basically
podcast. They don't pay for this.
It was basically a 1-lap race. It was like, because we were interviewing Chris Woods, who is Marco Arop's coach, in the mix zone while this race was going on. And I keep looking over my shoulder every, about 20 seconds just to make sure nothing's happening. And then we just keep talking, and then it hits the bell. I'm like, all right, I need to watch at this point. But everyone was still there at the bell, almost everyone. So, yeah. Though I guess the bad news was this is probably Robert's favorite, the young Latvian Agata Sayuna, I believe is how you pronounce that. David Monti told me, who was the heroic prelims woman who built this massive lead. I assume she has the Latvian national record, but maybe she doesn't. She had to withdraw from the final due to injury, so she wasn't running. But
be a 5K finalist. This is like, I had some great analogy about whether Yard Negus is Olympian about something here, but I can't remember it. When I catch up on sleep, I'll try to remember. Real quickly, John.
Well, wait, I'm just going to say this for the record. I view someone like that as more of a finalist than whoever got in because she scratched. Or like,
oh, did they put someone in?
Like, yeah. This is the first time they introduced the new rule. If someone scratches, you get the next highest placing athlete in. And World Athletics did this. Like, who do you view more of as a finalist? Someone who may qualify for the men's 200-meter final but didn't run due to injury, or Andrew Hudson, who was advanced because of this strange collision of the golf carts. I mean, he made the final, but he didn't really qualify for it. I mean, I view it more as someone who actually did the performance to get to the final than someone who ran in the final, even though they didn't actually do the performance to get there.
I mean, he's still going to see doctors when he goes home, so hopefully everything's medical.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to.
Maybe I shouldn't make a joke, but John, pulling off that car crash to get the final, that's amazing. That's next level. I mean, some people are speculating Sam Parsons knew the best way in the final, you just fall. So the car crash is like next level. Any other conspiracy theories you guys want to put in the comments? Do that. Okay. There's a comment right here. We had a 5K final tomorrow and the women's 8. Maybe we should give some predictions for those and then call it a day, right? Are we missing anything else?
No, that's...
Oh, Mondo won the pole vault. Had a good attempt at the world record, I think. And then afterwards, Noah's doing this thing. Noah's like, I had to do the triple. I wanted to be athlete of the year right there. And just by chance, like, everybody is gone from the mix zone. Everybody. It's like me and like free social media. And just by chance, Noah happened to like been walking through and saw us. And by chance, somehow Mondo like walked through too. And he's like, that guy right there. And he like fist bumps Mondo. And it's like, you made me better this year. Like, I knew I had to take it to another level to be athlete of the year, essentially. Like, me just winning my event wasn't enough.
Do you go athlete of the year? Do you go Lyles? Do you go Krause?
Lyles, John.
I mean, I think just World Athletics kind of has a bias towards the 4x1 and the 4x2. Like, the 100 and the 200. I remember Bolt would just get it every year. He would win the 100 and 200 every year, but he was not always the best athlete in the world. And he'd just get it kind of because he was the name brand. But they could invite him to the ceremony and they get pictures and everything. But like, I don't know. I think it's an argument for the end of the season. Krause against Lyles. Krause breaks the world record. He has one of the most epic performances ever. Wins worlds with blood clots with the second farthest throw ever. I think that's certainly a conversation. Lyles versus Krause.
Maybe. Trying to see. The other thing I was remarking was like, I'm like, Lyles is such a level below Bolt in terms of popularity. Like, there's no way Bolt would have been doing this. Like, but also some of his perseverance. I just happened to be hanging around there. Everybody was gone, so some of it was like people just didn't know to be there. But I'm like, Bolt was always an entourage. But I take that back. I went to Boston Celtics game with Bolt. I'm trying to see what year that was.
Wait a second. Seth Lewis says Jakob's only minus 125 favorite on Bovado. Run to the betting website right now. I mean, all right, let's put
that's
this
what I was about to say.
Let's put that into the odds converter. What the implied Robert loves the implied win probability, but minus 125. I mean, you bet 125 to win $1. That's an insult for the defending champion, the guy who's run 327.
50 for John. This field is stacked. Can they run it away from him? Now, after watching today's race,
no,
I'm not confident. Tomorrow's supposed to be the hottest day. Now, at night, it really cools down. I mean, in the sense that there's not sun.
Hold on. Seth Lewis says correction. Jakob at minus 500. Okay.
Oh, minus 500. You bet
See?
the field.
But that shows how correct I was to say put a lot of money on him at 125. The bookies realize that's a stupid price. Minus 500. I don't know if I bet that.
Okay, I'm looking here. And I was talking about McDonald's. I went to the Celtics game and McDonald's with Usain Bolt and Matt Taylor. Now,
who?
Tracksmith. Usain Bolt. And I guess I was saying his name wrong. Maybe that's why I didn't get invited back.
Oh, wow. There's Rondo, PP.
KG. So, but this was in 2008. Oh, something before the Olympics?
No, after we had they say they won their 17th straight. We had this big win streak in the 08-09 season. So
after the
Olympics? It must have been after on the Olympics.
So yeah, they're not going to bring just some world record holder to the Celtics game. So who knows? But I don't know. I felt an ease of Noah. Like he gets the responsibility of the sport. It was good. But okay, these 5K. First of all, if you're watching now, please hit like and subscribe. We never tell people to do that, but you need to. Please do that. But there's a comment here. What the hell? It's by Intern Alex. I just thought it was some guy. Oh, wait. No. That's not the comment. Intern Alex says, Nordas beating Jakob in the 5K is the dark horse storyline. That's a perfect ending to Worlds. Okay, no way. Rose Runner says, is Nordas a threat to beat Jakob? A guy who closes in 52 seconds in a 3:29 race is scary. No way. Everyone who hits like or subscribe, what do you have to do? Subscribe. You got to hit subscribe. If that happens, I will draw one of your names from my hat and give you $1,000. Just one name, $1,000. So everybody hit like. You can be listening to this later on demand. If you're listening to the Supporters Club podcast, just go to YouTube and subscribe or something. I don't know. Like somehow. No, it's not going to happen. This guy didn't even want to run the final. He's not a good 5K runner. This is Nordas. He's going to get dropped. I don't see it happening. If he does, yes, it would be the. Oh man, I mean, a splash page, black page. Oh my God, it'd be crazy. John's very confident. Minus 500. That's nuts.
No. Now Seth has issued another correction. Minus 500 is podium finish.
Oh, okay.
So minus 125 is the odds. I'm
55%. I think that's probably about it.
I think he's a little.
Wait, no
slightly
Cheptegei?
heavier favor than that. No Cheptegei.
We got Aragawi. Who else?
Aragawi, Mr.
Okay.
I Never Medal. We got Hagos Gebrawet. You've got Abdi Noor.
Been bad for 10 years and now it's back. I'm saying.
Yeah, that's not questionable at all. You've got Abdi Noor, Chalimo, Mohamed, Kajelcha.
Who Kajelcha I'm liking pushing the pace. I don't think he wins it though. I still think Jakob beats him. But you're right. We have no Kipyegon and we have no Cheptegei. So it is easier. I want someone though, please. I want someone to push this pace for at least.
I don't see it.
I want someone pushing the back half. If not, they're going to hand it away. It'll be another fifth. After seeing today, I think you're right, John. It's Faith Kipyegon 2.0. I don't think it'll come down to the final lap. Final lap, Jakob. You don't want it to come down to the final lap, but he'll take
Jakob. He's fine if he's a little recovered from his
He'll
illness.
let us sit to a K and just trounce everyone. If that's the situation, gold for Jakob.
If you can get Jakob at 125, go there, put $100 on it, make some money. Treat your, girlfriend, wife, significant other to dinner or something like that.
No, what Lyles was talking about. I thought he said waking up with his girlfriend. Not to check the exact language. I guess his girlfriend's here. I don't hear much about her. John, I've been telling John. Usually this is Robert's role, but a lot of young people here. John, check out the dating apps.
We were told the most popular nightclub in Budapest is right near the stadium. So
now, John, we used to do storylines like the party scene in Eugene when we were part of the athlete crew and that sort of stuff. You have my full permission tomorrow to blow off the meat and go to the club.
I mean, that's where you're going to see the athletes, right? The
right.
final
that
night of
story,
World,
John,
the meet's over.
Some bullshit recap of what's tomorrow, the 800? I can do that. Intern Alex can do that. Robert can do that. You go to the nightclub, you write the story.
But that's I can't do that without getting all the athletes' permission. They're right. They're entitled to have their own private lives. Me going over and watching them party and then writing about who's getting drunk or who's doing stuff.
No, you can leave out
That's
names.
intruding.
No, you got to know how to do that. When you're the social media people, you get their permission, that sort of stuff. You got to talk to these influencers, John.
Oh yeah, I think me and Sha'Carri are so tight. I feel like I'll just hang out with her crew tomorrow night and we'll be good, right?
Luis Grijalva, I think he's a dark horse for. I don't know, guy's fourth last year is a dark horse for the medal, but it should be fabulous. I'm going to check actually how the order of this thing. We're back to ending with the 4x4s, which whatever. I guess that's fine.
We ended with the 4x4s last time, right? Or did we end with the 4x1s last time?
I don't know. I just sort of wish they would end. I don't know. We stand with the 4x1s. I think the 4x1's better. There's more drama in the 4x1. The 4x4 is not a good event to end with ever. Sorry.
Agreed. The 4x4 is almost always just an American cakewalk.
Right.
And this year it's not. But no, well, I support this. The 4x1 is exciting. Every year it's exciting. Even if there's a heavy favorite, you never know who's going to win. Yeah. Right. I'm totally on board with it. The 4x4s usually just aren't that close.
Right. The 4x1 should be the final event. That needs to be the one change. And also, if you win the heat and have the fastest time, you pick your lane in the next round. That should be an advantage. So there'd be an incentive to run hard in the semis, so you get to pick your lane for the final. And you just have a draft of lanes. It'd be sort of interesting what lane people picked.
Yeah. So here's the schedule. Final day of Worlds 2023, August 27th. You got the marathon at 7 a.m. So that's 1 a.m. Eastern time if you're in the United States. And at this point, I'm guessing you might be staying up for it, but maybe you just DVR it, whatever. That is Sunday morning. Then we've got the women's high jump final, men's javelin throw finals, men's 5,000 meter final, women's 800 meter final, women's steeplechase final. Kind of an overlook. I mean, it's probably the least interesting of all the distance finals.
I think there's one more distance.
Yeah, we didn't do the women's steeple. One American in that, Courtney Wayman. And then the men's and women's 4x4s to close out the meet. We will have a new champion in the 4x4 on the women's side. The U.S. hasn't lost this race since 2015. Someone's got to win. So that will be the final event of the whole meet.
2 to 4 p.m. on NBC, big boy NBC, big girl NBC. Oh, last night we revealed that Rojo thought the announcers were announcing off a video feed that's 2 to 5 seconds behind. I'm like 100% confirmed now with that. I put a video out on YouTube. I just watched tonight's highlights. NBC still has not fixed this problem. Maybe now that the video's out there, they'll see it. But it's if you've been wondering, like, something's off with the broadcast. It's so obvious once you see it now. And it's more obvious in the sprints. The 4x1, the faster the runners are running, you notice it. But like when you're 2 seconds late calling who won the race, it's not a good look. So hopefully they can fix that. People are like, wait, you guys, the sound sucks in your podcast. How can you criticize? A couple people like, whatever. We work on the sound, but we're not NBC. I'm hoping they fix this. I'm pointing this out so they fix it. I'm not even trying. Like, I wasn't
right. There will be millions of people watching the NBC broadcast.
It looks bad for the sport. We've texted people behind the scenes. It still haven't got done. So I'm putting out this on Twitter now. Like, I want this fixed.
Yeah, we want it to be good. We want the NBC coverage to be good. I think generally it's not that bad, but when you have an obvious delay, that's just something you would want to get fixed.
Like, oh, Lee Diffie sucks. I'm like, no, he's actually like,
he's fine. He's just
watching the feed that is 2 seconds behind what's going on being piped into your house.
Right.
So crazy.
All right, everyone. Enjoy the marathon on the final day. Enjoy everything else on the final day. Hope you've enjoyed all our coverage so far. Thank you, everyone. If you are listening this on delay or if you're a Supporters Club member who's listening live, we really appreciate your support.
Now, we've been pumping up the Supporters Club that you get daily podcasts from Worlds. Now, you probably won't sign up just so you can listen to it. Well, you might. A lot going on tomorrow. If you want tomorrow as a podcast, you can listen Monday on the way to work. You need to be a Supporters Club member. But just in general, if you're a Supporters Club member, you get a bonus podcast every week. We have 2 podcasts a week. One is only for Supporters Club members. You can save 20% on running shoes. Sign up today.
Yeah, and we usually preview. There's a lot of meets on weekends. We'll use that Friday 15 to preview and give you our opinions on that. Sometimes if we're at a major marathon, we'll do a Friday 15. We'll say, hey, here's what we learned at press day. You get a lot of insights that doesn't always make it into the main podcast. So it is worth listening to.
I ran into
biased opinion.
I ran into a major marathon race director. And he's like, I love Let's Run. You guys, this is, English isn't first language. You guys tell it how it is. if the head of USATF makes too much money, you're not afraid to say it. I was like, thank you. Appreciate it. Till tomorrow, everybody.